Nick Abbot on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
LBC's Washington correspondent is Simon Marks, and he joins us on the line now. Hello, Simon.
Evening, Nick.
Donald Trump first addressed the killing of the nurse as by saying that the man that they killed had a gun, which seems odd from the right to carry arms president. I believe he's been speaking to the Wall Street Journal and has changed his tone somewhat.
He definitely has changed his tone. This has just come in within the last few minutes. The president has spoken on the telephone for around 5 minutes with Wall Street Journal reporters on Sunday. I think it is worth putting into context the fact that the Wall Street Journal is a Rupert Murdoch-owned newspaper, and it joined the New York Times earlier today in accusing the White House and the president's top officials of lying about what took place on Saturday in Minneapolis when 37-year-old Alex Pretty was gunned down by those Border Patrol agents. The president's own deputy White House chief of staff, Stephen Miller, has described Mr. Pretty as a would-be assassin. There is, of course, absolutely not a scintilla of evidence to back up that claim. Well, tonight in this conversation with the Wall Street Journal, President Trump is sounding a much more moderate tone. He has told the newspaper that the White House is now reviewing everything that took place in Minneapolis on Saturday and will come out with a determination. He has said, I don't like any shooting. I don't like it, but he's also then gone on to criticise Mr. Pretty. He says, I don't like it when somebody goes into a protest and he's got a very powerful, fully loaded gun with 2 magazines loaded up with bullets. Also, the president saying that doesn't play good either. But he does not in any way accuse Mr. Pretty, as the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, falsely accused the 37-year-old intensive care unit nurse of doing on Saturday. He doesn't accuse him at all of attempting to attack or kill Border Patrol agents in Minneapolis. In fact, he expresses concern that the gun that Mr. Pretty was carrying, and remember, he was legally carrying that gun. It was a permitted weapon, and he was entirely within his rights under the Second Amendment of the Constitution to have it on his person, even under the very febrile atmosphere that was developing in Minneapolis. The president has said that he's concerned that it was a dangerous and unpredictable gun. It's a gun that goes off when people don't know it. Well, that's very different than what his other senior officials have been saying, claiming that Mr. Pretty was brandishing the weapon, another entirely false claim made by a whole host of mendacious senior Trump cabinet members and others, including the zealous head of the Border Patrol, Mr. Greg Bovino. Also, President Trump has told the Wall Street Journal, at some point we will leave. He signaled a willingness to withdraw immigration enforcement officials from Minneapolis eventually. He said they've done a phenomenal job. He wouldn't offer a time frame for when he might withdraw those federal agents, but he said that his intention is to pull them out eventually, and then he plans to leave what he described as a different group of people there to address claims of financial fraud in Minnesota that the administration claims have been carried out particularly by Somali groups applying for locally furnished government grants by the state of Minnesota to which they were not entitled. So I think this is potentially the beginning of the climb down by the White House. And it comes at the end, Nick, of a day where the president has been on the receiving end of criticism from many unusual quarters, including Republican lawmakers. Governor Phil Scott, a Republican of Vermont, put a statement out tonight saying, enough. It's not acceptable for American citizens to be killed by federal agents for exercising their God-given and constitutional rights to protest their government. He said, at best, these federal immigration operations are a complete failure of coordination of acceptable public safety and law enforcement practices, training and leadership. At worst, Governor Scott said, it's a deliberate federal intimidation and incitement of American citizens that is resulting in the murder of Americans. That's the Republican governor of Vermont, Phil Scott, saying enough is enough. And remember that the president was also on the receiving end of what looked like carefully worded criticism from the National Rifle Association earlier today, the pro-gun, powerful lobby group, which was basically saying there needs to be a full investigation of what took place on Saturday in Minneapolis before legal gun owners are villainized by powerful voices within the president's administration.
Yes.
So it looks to me like this is the beginning of a climb down.
Well, the National Rifle Association was freaking out because Bill Asaley, which is one of Trump's appointees, the temporary California U.S. attorney, said if you approach law enforcement with a gun, there's a high likelihood they will be legally justified in shooting you, which is the absolute opposite of what the National Rifle Association believes to their bone. And so we're talking about the Second Amendment here.
Yes.
And so they had a major cow. And do you think that that actually might inform Trump's climb down more than a sudden onset of morals?
Yeah, I think without question. I think that he was placed in an incredibly invidious position by the revelation that Mr. Pretty had this gun, was completely legally entitled to have it. And, you know, you can't have it both ways. Either you support the Second Amendment, as the president claims to do. You know, all of his top officials covet the right to bear arms that is guaranteed by that Second Amendment to the American Constitution. So if you back it, you put yourself in a very difficult position when you turn around and say that anybody carrying a gun to a protest, even if they are doing so completely legally, should basically consider it justified if they find themselves on the receiving end of shooting by the Border Patrol and by ICE. But I think also the other thing that has stuck so badly in the craw of Americans all over the country, including many of Donald Trump's supporters, is this attempt to villainize Mr. Pretty when the video and multiple videos gathered at the scene of that killing completely contradict the claims that people like Kristi Noem and Greg Bovino, the head of the Border Patrol, have been making. And you can't look at those videos and then hear what they say and reach any conclusion other than the fact that they have been brazenly lying in a bid to blacken the name of this 37-year-old American citizen, the second American citizen to have been killed and had their names dragged through the mud. Because remember, they did exactly the same with Renee Good 18 days ago, with the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, saying that her killing at the hands of an ICE agent, a trigger-happy killer ICE agent, was justified. Again, the video in that case made... There wasn't any way you could look at that video. I know there are some Trump supporters that do, but no reasonable person could look at that video and reach the conclusion that she deserved to be shot.
And, you know, I had to point this out, but they were two white people. Do you think that the climb down had anything to do with that? Because if they were black people, then I very much doubt that Donald Trump would have gone to the Wall Street Journal. But maybe I'm wrong about that.
Well, I mean, we don't know because of the circumstances. I think it's reasonable to surmise that might be the case. I mean, also one wonders, you know, if they weren't American citizens, if they were foreign tourists on the streets of these cities, you know, would we be seeing the same kind of apparent climb down tonight? I think in this case, it's the gun ownership that has made the difference, along with the brazen nature of the lies that his top officials have been telling.
Yes, and there was a poll conducted by the New York Times, and admittedly it was before Alex Pretty's death, but after the first death of Renee Good, yes. And the question was, do you think the tactics used by immigration and customs enforcement have either gone too far, not gone far enough, or have been about right? Democrats, 94% of Democrats said that they have gone too far. 80% of Republicans said they had not gone far enough or were about right. So
yes, although some of this polling cuts a slightly different way, because Politico asked Trump voters in 2024 about their view of the tactics that the president has been adopting, again, before the shooting of Mr. Pretty. And one Trump voter in three in 2024 said they approved of the administration's mass deportation goals, but did not approve of the implementation that's been underway. Now, that still means that 2 out of 3 were backing him, but there was definite movement there that I think also demonstrated that he was beginning to lose some ground, even among his fervent supporters.
Yeah. Good to talk to you, Simon. As always, thanks so much for that. Simon Marks, LBC's Washington correspondent.